Hello everyone, welcome to Book versus Movie Battle Royale. Today we are going to be comparing Crazy Rich Asians. Wow, that's amazing! No, it's not. Things that we're going to be judging them on. There's character, plot, execution, and just anything I could really think of. Because there's always this battle between book nerds and movie buffs, today we settle the score. Keep in mind this video is full of spoilers, so if you haven't watched the movie or you haven't read the book but you intend to do either one of those, make sure to do that first, otherwise the spoils will be spoiling around. Let's start off with the characters. Two characters that are basically the same in terms of character development and fleshing out between both mediums are Nick and Rachel. Some other characters are definitely different. Because of the nature of movies, you kind of have to bring it down to who the core story is about, which is Rachel, Nick, and Nick's mother, Eleanor. The book has more time to delve into characters like Astrid, like Michael, like Charlie, like Eddie, like Alistair. The side characters get a lot more meat to them in the books than they do in the movies. But that doesn't mean they get the point. That's just the limitations of what a movie can give you and what it can't. If it was a television series, this would be a different story too. One thing I actually found more surprising was that Eleanor was actually a much better fleshed out character in the movie than she was in the book. In the book, she was kind of just honestly a nag. She always just complained about Rachel, but without giving any insight as to why she felt a certain way. In the movie, you get all these different layers about her not really fitting into Nick's father's family and the trials she had to overcome with that. There's also a really good sense of why she's protective over Nick. In the book, many times she just calls Nick's father up and complains about Rachel, just saying that her parents aren't rich, she's originally from mainland China, she's gonna ruin the son's life, but there's not much more beyond that. So the point actually goes to the script and movie element. But what about the other characters in the book? How did they fare up against the movie, which didn't give them that much screen time? Astrid, Charlie, and Michael, I think, were probably shafted the most. Their storyline in the book was far more interesting to me than it was in the movie. But I will hold this point that they may tackle this in the second movie. It seems like it's gonna be the likely route since the mid-credit scene is showing Charlie, played by Harry Shum Jr., making eyes with Gemma Chan, who is playing Astrid. But I want to say, since it was addressed in book one, that the storyline with Astrid finding out her husband was cheating on her, but actually faking the cheating on her, NANI? And Charlie coming in to help her out, that was magnificently done. Astrid kind of comes at the story at an opposite angle from Rachel. Astrid is the one who was born into this incredible wealth and what it feels like to marry someone outside that wealth. In that case, Michael feels really emasculated about all his wife's spending habits and her tiptoeing around him and just all the fanfare around the relatives that always kind of give him snide comments and like low insults about how he hasn't contributed to the family. Basically how poor he is. That's a very difficult thing in itself, so I totally understand there's a very big conflict between them for that. I haven't read the second book yet, so if it ends up being contradictory, I do apologize, but I do like how the movie handled the affair situation. It really simplifies it and essentially talks to the same points that were causing the stress in the marriage in the beginning. Because Michael wants a divorce no matter what, and the money is the root of the cause. So either him faking the affair or actually having the affair won't change the fact that he is doing whatever it takes to step away from Astrid. So a point goes to the movie for simplifying that. Right now, I am a huge Astrid and Charlie shipper, even from book one, because they have these scenes together where Charlie's trying to help her investigate what happened with her husband and the affair. And she flashes back to all these times that they had together, and one in particular speaks to the Crazy Rich Asians mentality that we just never got to see. And that was when Astrid was young and she walked into a store and wanted to buy something, but the snooty store people were like, oh, I don't think so. They did this because they just took a look at her and assumed that she either just wasn't the right clientele or couldn't afford it or something, whatever reason. And I think this was really powerful to me in the book because I would never be a part of this lifestyle, but it was compelling to see someone in that position with that much wealth being looked down upon just because of what they look like or how they hold themselves. Luckily, my boy Charlie steps in and is like, I don't care. This shit's probably crap, but we're gonna buy 10 things that are like super expensive right off the bat so their eyes will just bleed red. Okay? We need to show these people that they are wrong in judging us. And she describes this moment in the book as like so exhilarating that it's better than sex. So I am hoping the next movie will address this scene or talk about it in some way, but I really want to give a point to the book for having this because I think it was probably one of the most powerful things to come of it. Not that you should be frivolously spending, but I think it really speaks powerfully to the Asian experience that some people will just judge you based on what you look like, what clothes you're wearing, your posture, your appearance, and just judge you for it. So, point to the book. The plot of the movie pretty much goes through a linear fashion, and the point where Nick's mother tries to sabotage Rachel is like a pivotal turning point in the movie. That was beautifully well done. In the book, it happened similarly, except it didn't really happen at the wedding. It was when Nick took Rachel to like an island and they had to drive up there, and she was so shocked and distraught she took the car by herself and drove down. I would just say, as the story came to an end, the movie did a very good job of wrapping up everything very neatly within that one movie. Book, on the other hand, seemed to drop a bunch of random twisty turns towards the end. They're like, oh, your father's a criminal and he's in China right now. Oh, Rachel's jumping on a plane to find him right now without really talking to her mother. Oh, Pig Lynn's there too. And Rachel in the book never really came to terms with Eleanor's disapproval. I suppose they're leaving it for books 2 and 3. Because of that, the open-endedness of the book didn't really leave the best taste in my mouth. In the movie, we had this symbolic move between Rachel and Eleanor playing a game of mahjong. It becomes a very powerful moment because you realize that Rachel actually has a lot of power to be able to take her son away from her if she really wanted. But because she didn't want to separate him and his mother again, she decided to take the step back for herself and let Nick go on her own terms. Luckily, Eleanor sees this, and all of this is symbolized in the ring that she gives to Nick for him to propose. This ring is really symbolic because Nick's father had it specially made for Eleanor because he couldn't get the ring his family set forth because they didn't approve. Now that Eleanor is passing the torch to Nick, it shows that she has come to accept Rachel as part of the family. So points to the movie for that great symbolism and that fact that they didn't even need to communicate that with any dialogue. Other characters that kind of got shafted because the movie can't really give that much screen time to the side characters. There's Eddie, who's the rich millionaire from Hong Kong. That's all about the optimal positions.
Optimal angles.
His struggle is actually about him coming from pretty humble beginnings, but wanting to show off that extreme wealth. Because he works hard for it and he wants to fit in this upper class society, but his parents and his family is not all about that life because they are very used to the very simple things and not showing off and not being showboaty. So he has a lot of conflict with them, and when his wife and children don't look like perfect, he kind of blows a gasket. We see glimpses of this in the movie.
Your dress is a disaster. If you wore a Bottega gown like I told you to, we'd be in the American Vogue.
You can wear that gown to hell, Eddie.
But in the book, it's explored into greater detail. And you may think this guy is kind of a douche too.
What's Rachel bringing to the table? Oh, small tits.
But in the book, he's actually a bit of a sweetheart. He's actually willing to give up most of his fortune to be with the actress Kitty Pong. And he just wants to make movies and do his own thing. But the family's like, no, she's embarrassing. So let's sick Bernadette on her and see where that goes. Unfortunately, Alistair gets his heart broken, so F's in the chat. Bernard. He is way worse in the books than he is in the movie. Already think he's a douchebag from all this other stuff he pulled, but way worse in the books, let me tell you. He actually wants to do dog fighting on Colin's bachelor party. Whew, no. They actually went into detail and described these dogs just like ripping into these other dogs and bleeding everywhere. It was awful. And like, I think it was to illustrate that some people's eccentric tastes are just so out there. But luckily, the rest of the characters were like, no, we're not down for this, like, get out. Bernard kind of symbolizes that child mentality where he's like, why don't my friends like me? Why don't my friends like this? Ugh, despicable. So for a little bit more insight into all these side characters, the point goes to the books. Execution-wise, I really love how the movie handled Asian diaspora and all these different components that contribute to the Asian experience. Like there was this food scene and the dumpling making scene. They talk about how they connect one generation to the next generation. Where Eleanor talks about happiness versus making things last. That spoke to me pretty powerfully. So all that stuff was something that kind of wasn't explored that much in the book. So I really have to give the point to the movie for shining a light on those. So who is the winner, you ask? Should I watch the book or should I read the movie? You can do both. No one's stopping you from doing both. But there can only be one winner. So, drum roll please. Ta-da! Yes, I mean, if you watched through the video, you wouldn't be surprised, but honestly, I do think the movie took all of the best parts of the book and made it better. Am I saying the book is bad? Nope, not saying that at all. The book is definitely worth a read. I actually thought of it as like a rom-com version of Game of Thrones with no beheadings, no intercourses, and no wee-wees getting cut off. Because if you really think about it, it is, right? Like everyone gets a certain point of view and they're all in this crazy world together. A lot of them are trying to fight for that top position. Some are trying to come up and claw themselves up. Others are trying to squish other ones down. Some of them are trying to split people apart. Very similar plot lines if you think about it. If you like this video, I am gonna do a bunch more like it because I think they're totally fun, especially when I don't run out of breath. Thanks for watching. Make sure to hit that like button, smash subscribe, and write a comment about how awesome you are. And I will see you next time on the next book versus movie review.